Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid lazy negativity, we have made this a little drinking game. So anytime you hear anything negative about a movie, each other, anything at all, you're going to hear this sound. That's going to keep us positive, people. We're going to try to stay positive. So take a drink. And that's what happens
Pour
when we hear
yourselves
that
a glass,
buzz.
and let's see if we can make it past the 8 hole on this one.
Make it past the 8 hole.
Hey, we're just starting at the 19th hole,
that was
isn't that right,
totally
Jeffrey?
accidental. I don't know what I said there.
You're a whisker away from drunkenness here, listening to our podcast, and we are talking about the Phantom of the Open today. Very excited here. But first, before we get in, let's do our sponsors.
You can be forgiven for not hearing this movie because I don't think anyone has.
Let's do our sponsors because I want to start talking about this movie. John, we haven't seen Carlos in like 4 years, but just tell us about him.
We have a beer sponsor. His name is Carlos Barroso. You can find his link in the show notes. cbarrozo.beer, CBAROZO.BEER. And we have a artist known as Dasein who provides awesome music for us in every single episode. About to launch on Spotify, but right now it's on Bandcamp. Follow the link in the show notes. We'll make sure you have all that available. Let's talk about this fucking movie, dude.
Our sponsors are great. Guys, if this movie's in limited release right now, it is in so limited release. It's like in one movie theater in the whole of New York City. I was literally like scrolling through. I was like, shit, 42nd Street, let's go. I'm assuming that's where you saw it, Dave.
It is. Yeah, they handed me my popcorn in a brown paper bag. It was that exclusive.
Okay. That was fuzzy on that one.
It might not have been popcorn. I don't know. It was in Times Square.
It was the bath salts like you were talking about last week.
They were showing it in two. They were showing it in two AMC's here, but only like 2 late morning show times. Like they knew exactly who they thought was going to go see this. So I went to one of the indie theaters here and saw it. But yeah, it's so limited.
The funny thing is, like, the population in my theater was 7, which was me, 4 randoms, and 2 grannies who turned out to be Mark Rylance super fans.
I mean, the greatest living actor is making a weird golf movie. Like, come on, you got to see it. You got to see it.
There are 5 people in my theater. How many people were in your theater, Jeff?
That, and then 2 people showed up an hour in and just talked to each other the whole time. But they were far away from me. They were fine. This movie was great. Since I'm hoping that we are getting the golf movie fans over this way. I'm hoping this isn't just the usual crowd. I'm hoping people see this movie and just want to look it up, and none of the prestige motherfuckers are talking about it, so they're stuck listening to us because we're the only ones with the Phantom of the Open on. So if that's you, if you're a golfing fanatic, we just want to say, Will Zalatoris is going to get his goddamn championship. We are recording this right after the United States Open. Dave, you can get a beer if you need for a second here, but we're talking Will Zalatoris has like 7 top 10s in his last 9. Matt Fitzpatrick, good for you. I'm excited to see what your brother Alex is going to do. He currently is a golfer and the Tar Heels of North Carolina. Scottie Scheffler, best player in the year. 25 looks 45. Looks about the same age as Morris.
Oh, sorry, Scotty, it's a true story. Oh my goodness,
this year's been hard on him. I mean, the money's been great, but
yeah, I think he's doing pretty well. His wallet's looking pretty good, actually.
Anyway, I'm saying this is to segue because what a good time for golf movies. Because here, I'm convinced that. First of all, niche is in right now, so any weird niche. If you're on TikTok, you know that the Chinese know exactly what you're up to.
I love that you say golf movies as plural. Like
I know, I was going to say, can we list them all?
Caddyshack, Happy Gilmore,
The Legend of Bagger Vance,
and Tin Cup.
Tin Cup, good call. That's it. That's all I got.
And this one.
And this one.
And this one. You know what? We should have fucking keep talking. I'm just gonna spit some more at you while you rant.
Golf has had it's having a young renaissance. We got the Live Golf Tour coming in. They're trying to fuck everything up with all their blood money from Saudi Arabia. In a land where you can't be gay or even kiss somebody without being stoned. They do stonings. And they had most of the hijackers in 9/11. But go ahead and take their fucking money, Dustin Johnson. No, we are talking about...
Jesus.
Honestly. No, I mean it's fucking weird.
It was negative but true, I guess.
I know we're not great here either, but come on, dude.
Come on, dude. Yeah, I'm glad. Go ahead and say that shit. For real, dude. My dad and I were talking about that. What the fuck?
All right, so... Let's get back
on topic.
Let's get back to the Phantom of the Open. This movie stars the greatest living actor, Mark Rylance, who is British again. He goes back and forth between British and American, thanks to his, I think he has dual citizenship. That's right. He led Shakespeare's Globe Theatre for about 20 years, and he drove a smart car 20 years before it was cool. This is directed by Craig Roberts. Craig Roberts, who you may know as Ass Juice from the movie Neighbors. That is his character's name in the movie Neighbors.
This kid, dude, what the fuck?
Sort of child star, and then, in his teens and early 20s was doing shit. He was like the lead of the TV show Red Oaks on Amazon. He was in Neighbors and 22 Jump Street. He was in the British show Skins for a couple episodes, Being Human, just like a whole bunch of shit. He was in the Tolkien movie a couple years ago, but now he's a director. And his second movie came out a couple years ago, starring Sally Hawkins, who's back in another one of his movies with the sweet and tender role. Dave and I just saw Paddington 2, and Sally Hawkins is showing some range, man. Yeah. She's really showing some range.
Dude, she's always been so good. Her and she's in some Mike Leigh movies at the beginning of her. I mean, she's one of my favorites. I feel like we don't see her enough. That might be my only critique of this whole fucking movie. We'll get to it. I wish I saw a little more dimension to her character, but what a touching supporting role.
They did the Hollywood thing where they were like, "Oh, it was all because of her." It's just like threw that in.
Yeah, the end of A Beautiful Mind in the golf movie.
The end of A Beautiful Mind, a golf movie. Okay, so anyway, this movie I'm talking about, 2019. It is Eternal Beauty, co-starring Sally Hawkins. So that is Craig.
And his first one was Just Jim. He starred in it and directed. I think he wrote it too. And it was Emil Hirsch in him, and the two-hander. What the fuck?
Dude.
Just
Where's
right
Emil
out of the
Hirsch
gate.
been?
That was his first feature film. I don't even think he's credited making any short films. He just went straight to the feature. Where's Emil Hirsch been?
Is he
we
still
can
in
do
Alaska?
a whole podcast.
Yeah.
That guy does not have the career. Emil, if you're listening, you and I feel like...
He lied on his application sheet and ticked professional and just got straight in.
That's right.
Skip the shorts.
Let's do. Dude. I'm gonna open this out. Let me give you some more of the blurb.
Really quick there to the movie.
So this is written. The screenplay was by Simon Farnaby, and the book, The Phantom of the Open: The Story of the Worst Golfer in the World, Morris Flitcroft. Let me say this again. The Phantom of the Open, The Story of the Worst Golfer in the World, Morris Flitcroft. Morris is spelled exactly the same way that you would spell Maurice, but it's Morris. And this is, it was written by Simon Farnaby and Scott Murray. So Simon Farnaby told Scott Murray, "Hey, I'm writing the screenplay. Leave me alone." Even though they both wrote the book. And the movie stars the greatest living actor on the planet, Mark Rylance, who we just talked about in our episode on The Outfit. I highly recommend you check it out. It's currently on Peacock. Mark Rylance, people. I'm giving you the blurb and then I'm shutting the fuck up. This is Morris Flitcroft, a dreamer, an unrelenting optimist, managed to gain entry to the British Open Golf Championship qualifying in 1976 and subsequently shot the worst round in Open history, becoming a folk hero in the process. Morris Flitcroft, worst golfer in history. Let's go to you, Dave. What do you think? Initial reactions. What'd you think, feel? And we're going to stay spoiler-free for a couple minutes.
Yeah, we'll stay spoiler-free. But when I'll admit, when this was first suggested, I had to look it up. And I was it's a golf movie. And then I read the spiel, and it's like a loose biography about a crane operator who takes up golf after seeing it on TV in the 70s. This should have been boring as shit. And it so is the complete opposite. It's delightful, it's inspiring, it's hilarious, and it's full of deeply insightful philosophies, I found. I really enjoyed this. Really fucking enjoyed this. I'll get into later how much I enjoyed this. But I was just all in. Like, there was no one else in the theater. I was absolutely enraptured by this fucking story. It is such a well-made film.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I completely agree. I wept at the end of this. I was emotionally affected. I don't usually go in for the feel-good movies, but I am a consistent sucker for the innocent dumbwit. You know, the pure of heart. Some of my favorite movies: Harvey, Being There is a wonderful film. I think Forrest Gump was a modern one that really was a big touchstone for a lot of our Generation X and millennials. I mean, and this is one of those too. It's just whenever they pull off this, it can feel cheesy and stuff, but this was so grounded in an earnest whimsy that I felt like it had a little bit of a flavor that was a little different than those wonderful films that had come before with this kind of character. Yeah. So you don't even need to like or love golf at all. The comedy is going to be there, whether or not you care about it. And the real emotional stuff is going to come from his pursuit and his relationships with his family. So I can't say this enough. Be one of the 5 people in your town to go see this movie, because this is another one, as we talked about with the outfit. There's no fucking way this movie would have gotten made if Mark Rylance didn't get on board and be an executive producer and attach his name to it to help raise some money. Not that it was a crazy expensive film, but we just don't see movies like this very much.
He makes good choices, and in this case, I'm so glad he did.
Yeah, go see it, folks.
It's
I was
so
crying
much
so
fun.
hard at the end of this.
So much fun. I'll go into later because I don't want to spoil the end, the end of it. But I'll go into later what I did at the end. But yeah, I walked out of the theater and I'm.
Did it stay in your pants?
I'm walking. Yes, it absolutely stayed in my pants. I was sitting in an exposed aisle. But
you were on the aisle.
I walked out of the theater and I'm smiling at people in Times Square. So now I have 3 restraining orders.
Yeah, that's what you did. Yeah. For smiling at people in Times Square.
You're exactly right, dude. This is medicine for the soul. It really is. Jeff, what'd you think?
I couldn't agree more with all you're saying. I should also shout out that Phoebe Waller-Bridge's sister, Isabel Waller-Bridge, wrote the score.
Yeah, she wrote the score. Yeah.
I literally saw Waller-Bridge. I was like, it's got to be something. This is, well, we'll talk about Mark Rylance. We'll get to Mark a little bit. So I'll just say, he's the best on the planet. So we'll have a whole section on him like we did on the outfit. So we'll save our gush alarm for a couple minutes from now. But yeah, I love the way that it was like, it was clearly shot to look like a classic, but also it didn't sacrifice quality to do that. So it sounded like just like the epic movies from the past. It had these whimsical moments to just prove to you it wasn't taking itself too seriously, or that it wasn't. It's almost like the you know what I mean? Those whimsical moments that like they're floating in space, or these weird dream sequences that are not like current dream sequences, not like that Paddington 2 dream sequence. This was like the Umbrellas of Cherbourg fucking dream sequence, like weird, probably simple practical sets, like simple stuff, just proving to you a producer did not fuck with this movie. We made the movie we wanted to make and we're feeling ridiculous and it's totally worth it. And the characters are likable and relatable and they're so true, I think, to that, who those characters are. That, here, this is what I think. Let me see if I'm saying this right. The movie never tried to accomplish more than the characters. So it was never trying to be the epic film the way that the characters, even though, he wanted to play in the British Open and he wanted to be a professional golfer, like it was just his dream. It was just the guy's dream and he gave everything to it. He's not trying to be fucking like the winner of Slumdog Millionaire or something. He's not trying to win.
Yeah, this was
some kind of
simple story that most of the stuff in the film is true.
And the movie just let it be.
Which is great.
The movie just let it be.
And it had enough character, but also you had such a great cast, right down to like everyone.
So I think it was great. Yeah.
Yeah. That you honestly, genuinely liked these people and you felt for them. And so when things went wrong, you felt bad. Like it was a really great. I'm wondering, did they make those guys live together? Because they were acting like they'd live together. Like,
the blocking in that teeny tiny house, like the way that they all interact with each other. I wouldn't be surprised if that was like something that Mark wanted, because he's an EP on this, that he was like, we're rehearsing. We're rehearsing, we're playing, we're improvising. I don't give a fuck. Like, I want to feel like a family.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised.
Let's go into spoilers. Let's move on.
Spoilers already? Actually,
before we move there's not that much to spoil in this, by the way.
Yeah. So it's all. Before we move into spoilers, I just want to talk about something quickly that happened. I saw happen before the movie, because I got there a little early, and you know how they normally have the pre-show program that everybody turns up late to avoid. So I'm sitting there, and there was this suddenly on screen. It comes up a film by Dove, and I was like, all right, and it's a mother and daughter walk into this room. And they start talking about influences. And I feel like this is like an important thing. There's no gag here. This was phenomenal what they did. It was 4 different mothers and daughters, and they started showing them influencers talking about body image and beauty tips and stuff like that. And then without any warning, it cuts to the mother deep-faked saying the stuff the influencers are saying, and it's the most toxic beauty advice you've ever heard in your life. And this stuff is actually coming out to kids. Dove made this whole fucking film about, like, you might not be saying it to them, you wouldn't say it to them, but they're seeing it anyway on these threads, and so you need to talk to your kids about what they're seeing and what they're doing. And I thought that was such a fucking good thing by Dove to put out. Like, I hope they get to see more.
Getting in there with the PSA. No, I
Shout out
totally
to Dove.
agree.
Yeah, go Dove.
No, I
Talk to
totally
your
agree with
kids.
you.
They're not even paying
I had a
us.
very deep conversation a few weeks ago with a mother of a 9-year-old girl, and she's, they're trying to deal with all that shit, and it's fucking hard.
Yeah, like the sheer amount that they get exposed to is ridiculous.
It's terrible. I can't imagine this being a young person going through that right now, especially a young woman. I'm sure that's very difficult. So good for Dove for stepping up.
They didn't tell the mother they were going to do it either. So the mother saw herself stand there saying that. She's like, "That's not me. That's not me." She freaked out. It was great.
Oh, that's good.
Shit. They put that ad in front of the right movie, like the.
I hope that's in front of every movie. To be honest, like that's.
Yeah.
It's a message that needs to get out.
Huh.
But yeah.
Okay.
Sorry to digress
Good,
there, but like, that was important.
No,
that was important.
I'm glad, no. Meaningful shit.
Yeah.
All right. So this movie.
We're going into spoilers?
Yeah, let's fucking do it. We're going into the spoilers. So everything you need to know is on the label of the can. You're going to read, and like all the ingredients are there. There's nothing that's going to really surprise you. Of course, the guy who's playing his first fucking round of his life in the British Open isn't going to be, he's not Eric Clapton. He's not 20. He's fucking 46 or 7. They refer to it at some point in the movie.
Yep.
And he literally sneaks on and plays for the very first time in this massive tournament. And, does he improve a little bit? Maybe, but that's not the point of this movie. And it doesn't let go of that, which I appreciate. It teases you with these little moments of realism and what is otherwise kind of it's not a broad comedy, but it's a whimsical comedy with a little bit of magical realism. So there are these little kernels where you can see that every now and then he'll hit a decent shot. And then it's just like in the game itself, like, it doesn't matter. He's immediately going to suck after that. And it's just, that's part of the fun. There's no difference in his mind. He's like,
for someone who practiced on the beach, he had so much trouble with sand.
My favorite, the essential, here's the nutshell of that. On his 18th hole of his first round, this big wonder, the whole sequence of the first round is amazing. But he has a good par 3. For anyone who doesn't know, it's just a short club. He doesn't hit like a real long. He just hits it one of the irons and gets on the green. This is big deal. And then he like 5 putts it. But then he comes home and he keeps saying, everybody, did you see? I nearly birdied it. I nearly birdied it. It was like,
if I got that first shot of the 5.
It doesn't matter.
It was a full-on Happy Gilmore, like, are you too good for your home moment, where he like 4 putts it from 6 feet.
Oh, it's so charming.
It's so charming is the word. Charming is the word for this movie.
The way this makes you feel, it's almost like the Forrest Gump of golf movies.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, like the thing we didn't talk about is like he does this 6 more times disguised as other nationalities and other
that is
people.
So funny. And I couldn't get the first one. Who's the guy? I know Matt and Mark love this. We hit our quote. The character that Jim Carrey does, that Andy Kaufman's other character in Man on the Moon. What's the fucking character's name? That's like the first one when he was dressed up. I was like, ha!
Yeah.
But. Yeah, it was just like I had no idea that the guy did this like seven times.
Tony Clifton.
Yeah, I had no idea about that. Fuck? That was a little bit of a surprise.
And that's the thing. Like, I'm never talk out loud in the theater. Like, it's not a thing I do. I don't want to ruin the movie for anyone. But I'm sitting there in amongst all these people, and we get to the interview where we come back to the interview at the end, and the guy's saying about, I've got this friend of that's not even going to the US Open, to the British Open, because it's just too far away. And I literally said out loud in the theater as the camera's pushing in, what's his name? And I stole the line, and I suddenly realized, I don't even know why I did it. I couldn't help myself. I was so in that character at that point. I knew exactly what he was going to say, and I pissed myself laughing when he said it. Like, it's just good. This is really good.
What about the aesthetic? Like, what I love about movies like this that are lived in, that let you actually like live and breathe in the space, how good is just the 70s aesthetic of this place? The 70s.
Oh, yeah.
I it's to the point where, and I'm not like
not that
a
hard
health
to find too.
I'm not a
actually.
health. Yeah, but I mean, and that's got to be really weird for a camera. And I wonder if they had to like do some lens tests on plaids mixed with pattern, mixed
hell
with
yeah.
like browns and yellows and just like angles and just weird outfits and shit. Like it's got to be so strange. Like what a cacophony of.
You got to see like what modern CTO gels do to like 70s clothes. Like there'd be tons of tests.
Yeah, but what's funny too is that, and I know this is a golf movie, but it's really a character study, and I love I'm not like a health freak or something, but like I felt their nutrition. Like they kept eating like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for lunch at the shipyard. I feel what that would feel like to like your one meal is a fucking PB&J while you're like literally a crane operator. You know, in America we'd eat like a fucking and they just have a PB&J. The fucking mac and cheese for dinner from a grown ass man. There's something about it. It's just so funny. I was just like I felt it. It was great.
They shot this on film. I saw the
they did. Wait, they
credited.
shoot it on? They shot it on film.
I saw the film loaders credited. So
well,
I assume some of it was shot on film.
At least some of it was on film.
I thought they'd be going back and forth because there was one time where it looked digital and it looked like the film effects, you know, with like the little white dots and the little crinkling. Like I felt like that like came on afterwards.
Yeah, that's easy. You just get some 8mm in there and don't clean the gate.
I thought maybe it was my.
Yeah, no. I'm sure they did go back and forth, but I think this. I think what struck me the most about this movie was, unlike a Forrest Gump, which is, again, they've made these kinds of movies every now and then, every few decades. One really, really pops, but Forrest Gump had a huge production around it.
Yeah,
right. That's kind of the appeal of it. Was that this very naive, innocent, pure of heart person just kind of gets wrapped up into the biggest parts of the latter half of the 20th century. And that's kind of fun watching him like find his way through that. This was so contained. And again, if you're a golf fan, we might think of the majesty of the British Open, but like the average person who goes to see this is just going to think like, wow, it's golf. And
not
the
as much
first
golf
time
as you think in this movie.
Not as much golf as you think.
Yeah.
And the first time that he sees golf, that's also important.
That look on his face.
He sees it on his
so
teeny
great.
tiny.
Yeah.
He saw it on his small TV screen, though. It's a very small television, and so even that, like, when we think of golf, this is way before Tiger Woods. Like, this is way before Nike and these giant endorsements. You know, it was just this kind of slow, quiet game that a very small demographic took part in. And an even smaller one gave a shit about it. Like for a long time, the only fans of golf were people who played it, which was not many people. So there's something enigmatic about him getting invested in this sport. And I'm going to be honest with you. I read a couple pieces on this just to see what the critics were saying. And the person who was writing for RogerEbert.com, I won't out them, they were a little frustrated that Craig, the director, never really got to the nugget of why golf in particular struck his fancy, that he kind of felt like he scapegoated a little bit with this magical realism moment where he sees it and he goes into the stars and orbits the earth and it turns into a golf ball and he gets all excited. It just didn't bother me. Like, I think that's kind of part of the elixir of this charm, is that there's not really a tangible linear thought process for him. I don't think there was, anyway, for why he chose this at that point in his life.
I think
he was
also
ready to have a new career, and he was like, that looks fun. I think that was it.
And it was timing, and that's what they set up narratively. Because I will say, sorry, Dave, the narrative points check out. Every character, even the small ones, they have the beginning, middle, and end, and it tracks whether it was fully fleshed out, like Sally Hawkins' character, or like the oldest son, or not. Like they still have the points that they hit. That like if you were in a screenwriting class, they'd be like, oh yeah, fuck, Jack, you did that. But the one thing that it was just the timing, He was at a time in his life where if it had to be something, and so why not golf? You know what I mean? So like I almost saw it like as more of a happenstance that just like it wasn't a luminous just because like he loved golf and golf was that, you know, we don't need to write a book on why golf is the perfect reason for this. It was just like the right time, and he wanted to devote himself to something, and he just wanted to, you know what I mean? Like why does there have to be a reason for something like that? I don't know. I thought they pulled it off. Sorry, Dave.
I think the fact that he's an older man, though. You know what I mean? That's what's so charming about it, is that they did a good job of checking all the boxes.
He's a shipyard 46, which is like a white collar 78.
Like 80. Yeah, I mean, honestly, right? Like he worked his whole life. They did a good enough job. I feel they did a good enough job telling you that, like, at one point he was relatively educated for somebody growing up in his time, because he went away during the war and learned a little bit of other languages. But
he was just shipyard fodder, you know?
So I guess what I'm saying is, I think he was aware enough to realize that the odds were against him at that age. It was his naivete about the sport. That's what I thought that the director did a good job with, is that nobody knew that much about the sport except for people who played it.
Yeah, I think so.
So
too.
Golf probably seems like it's not a sport to most people who don't play it. It seems like it's just like this casual pastime that people are like, oh, that looks lovely. And then you get out there and you want to fucking kill yourself.
I actually drew a little bit of that away from like the first time I ever made a film. And I submitted it to.
Like, sure, this is easy.
I'm like, this is great. Like, this is a good film. Everyone will love this. I sent it to the Friars Club in New York from Australia. It was terrible. Like it was not well produced. The lighting was like ridiculously bad, and it just like it was. I'm sure they watched it and laughed for all the wrong reasons, to be honest. Yeah. But I was, I had that same naivety where it's like, no, they'll love this. And I sent it off, and
I made it.
So I kind of relate. Plus, I love an underdog story.
Oh,
I've told you guys about the Stephen Bradbury thing in Australia. Like every country has one of these guys, and ours was Stephen Bradbury. 2002 Winter Olympics. He's doing the short track speed skating. He's done 4 other events, and he's like, I don't have any fuel in the tank. I can't beat these guys. I'm in the semi-final. I can't beat these guys. They're going for gold. They're like really, really going for gold. So his strategy was just to get out of the way. Now in the semi-final, those guys crashed and fell, and he went through. In the final, he's like, oh my God, I'm in the final. I'm just going to get out of the way. And in the final, it fucking happened again. Right at the finish line, he sailed past them and won the first gold by a Southern Hemisphere country ever in a Winter Olympics.
Oh my God, dude.
And so it coined a phrase in Australia, doing a Bradbury is like literally like where you have an unexpected win. And
I like it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so we like it's that it reminded me of that sort of thing, because like we had that and it was a big thing in 2002. This totally related to this on the same level.
This movie reminded me of Up, to be honest with you, where it was like at a certain point, just go for your fucking dream, because why not? You know what I mean? It had the montage. It had the montage of that montage with him and his wife, and he meets his wife. It is as touching as Up. So yes, this is a golf movie, but at the same time, it's like, oh my God. And I know, John, I know what you're saying about the Sally Hawkins thing. I would have to agree, but at the same time, when it's almost like a I remember when. Were you with me? No, I was in Heritage Theater Festival, and we saw Up, and then my friend Gino Carr came, and he was like, hey, did you guys see Up? I really want to go see it. And I was like, I think you should see it with your wife. Yeah, I think you should see, you know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those movies. Yeah. I feel like my dad and my mom kind of watches golf to be like friends. I feel like they should watch it together. It's just fucking charming. It's just touching. And then my mom can say, and the message of all of it seems, is like, because that fine line of like, things could be worse. Yeah, like when I think I'm having a bad day and I want to give up, things could be worse. And of course they conflate that with like, well, I'm not as bad as Morris Flitcroft. But then I think that the writers do a good job of making that message really come back to. Well, what I mean by that is he kept going, and he doesn't feel too much shame about that. Yeah. So why should I beat myself over it? I feel like my mom can sit there and be like, you know what? Out of all the golf shit you put me through, at least you can actually play golf. So
I mean, his whole philosophy was at least you tried.
Right, which is it's a message that he almost didn't even believe too, which is really great.
So I got that, and I came home and I opened a fortune cookie with my Chinese food, and it said you can write your own script, and I was like, all right, that's 2 things in a day. I'm done.
How can you not? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think whenever you have this, again, unlike the Forrest Gump and Being There, where both of those characters kind of slid mysteriously into greatness.
Yeah.
Right.
This stayed, again, it kind of stayed on the outside.
Thank God.
He became a folk hero.
If he shot like a 2 under by the end of this, I'd be like, I don't know.
It's just the fact that he kept coming back.
Like the rest of the movie is fantastic, but his opening round, the seduction from the audience starting to follow him, and the people at the bars and the pubs, and the
those first couple holes were like hard to watch.
That first shot.
When the first guy tees off, and he just goes fucking hell.
Yeah. straight after telling his kid not to swear.
And he does it. Mark is one of the best voice performers of all time, meaning like his voice is like, it's like you study his speaking voice. He's like, oh, he's talking up here for most of the way. He's like, fucking hell. Like it drops into this. Like.
God, that was so.
It was so good.
Funny.
And then like his first shot, where you see him imagine where it's gone, and then you see the reality, and it's like fucking 8 feet away, and then they're doing the math.
I like the close eyes thing. I bet you he filmed it both ways and said we'll figure out which one to work. But the fact that his eyes were closed, and like I just thought it was so funny.
No, it was great, and then it just didn't lit up like. Very British, the humor, like he hits it 5-6 yards or 8 yards technically, right? It's like, very good, son. How far are we on? How far are we now?
Yeah, he's like, what do we do? Yeah,
it was 460 to the hole.
There and do the math.
Got about 8 yards, so what's that? 452 to the pin. He was like, very good. I'll take the 3 iron. It just stayed so grounded. It was so sincere that's why it stayed. Which again is important for all these movies, but it didn't. The world didn't make light of that. Again, like everyone likes Forrest Gump, and the world kind of got on board with it, and you felt like the observer, the director's eye, knew that this was ridiculous. I don't think anyone thought this was ridiculous except for the villains. Yeah, and they were definitely the mustache twirling, the Mr. McKinsey, the head of the
Rhys Ifans, famous actor Rhys Ifans.
I think
which again, some people may say two-dimensional. He was so like, oh, Morris, you're ruining my game, but like nobody cares. Nobody cares. Yeah. It was cute. It was sweet. There was fun, technical, like physical comedy.
I'm sorry, it's true. We all know that country clubs don't. You know what I mean? Like they wouldn't just let this person walk on their course, and the British Open doesn't want this person playing in the British Open. We know that to be true.
His meeting with the guys at the beginning. Good day, lads. It's like, and he says, "Would you like to play with me?" And they're like, they blow him off, and he's like, on second thought, I don't think I have time to play with you guys. He like just tries to own it. Those were some of my favorite moments where he was ashamed. There were a few moments where you could tell it's not like he's completely blind to. He wasn't so in a sense.
He's not Mr. Magoo. He's not Mr. Magoo.
Forrest Gump did a good job of showing you that he was what we call special needs. Back then, they used another word for it. They said it in the script, right? He went there and tested that way as a child. I don't think we were supposed to think of him that way. So he was wise enough to realize that those guys were being mean to him and that they didn't want him to be around. He just didn't care.
Oh no, I wasn't drawing a comparison to Forrest Gump like the character. I was drawing a comparison to Forrest Gump the movie, as in he kept getting in these situations, putting himself in these situations.
Oh, of course.
And also the fucking soundtrack. Can we take a minute to talk about that? What was the budget of this film? Because I can guarantee you at least half of it was the licensing of that fucking music.
I will say that might be. I said the Sally Hawkins thing. I think that's my only action. I'll let her go because it was important for that. I think there were too many needle drops. I thought Waller Bridges' score was doing all the work I needed for this kind of movie. Maybe one or two, because the young sons, twin sons, are disco dancers. You can't write this shit. You can't write this shit. I mean, it's just so charming, and it was actually true. So yeah, maybe a few of those moments were effective, but I do think they started overusing the needle drops, and I wanted more of that whimsical score. I thought it was working so well for me.
I mean, to me, the needle drops were telling you what year it was.
But there were a few needle drops. But there were a few needle drops. The songs were after that took place, which I thought was strange. Yeah. So I thought there were some times where they were out of place, where I was like, what year is it? And it kind of made me think about like what year it was. But it doesn't matter. It was still. I still had lots of fun. And don't fuck what I just said. Let's go
off on Mark. Let's go off on Mark because here's the great irony, because he's known as a Shakespearean actor, even though he's even called the Shakespeare canon into question. He was in the movie Anonymous, which questions whether or not Shakespeare actually wrote at least all of his own plays.
Are you talking about the director of Moonfall's most serious grounded drama? Anonymous.
Moonfall.
Oh, come on. Is it just because I said Moonfall?
Yes.
Okay.
Fuck that film.
So the great irony about Shakespeare's writing is that even though it was highly poetic and it was about wealthy people, it really was a working man's art. He was writing it knowing that working men, yes, men at the time, were going to say it, but it was also supposed to. So even though it was high poetry, it was meant to tell the relatable stories. It wasn't just meant to prop up politicians. It was meant to take somebody's crown off their head and show what they're like right before they go take a shit. Like it really, that's what it is. So yes, it's high poetry, but there's something about the way Mark delivers every single line, his walk. So this is more than just being a great actor, and this is more than just. Yeah. I feel like the method cheapened people's pursuit of, let's say, perfection for the sake of this movie, right? Practice makes, perfection or whatever. But like, whether he's writing some fine line between either making poetry sound working class or making working class language have the same effect as poetry in this movie in a way that is like, it's both accessible, but never once do you think he's putting on a show. Like he's doing all the same work to legitimize this populace as Brando does in On the Waterfront, but this is a comedy and this is in England. And you would never once think that he is not a shipyard fucking crane operator. And when he's in the thing, when he's shooting the shit with the guys, I could spend an hour. I could just spend a lunch break with these guys. Just listening to them
I want to just have
talk.
Lunch with them.
Yeah, fucking fire it off. Fire off that fucking Gushalon. Fire it off on me. God damn it, this movie's good. I want to watch all. Okay, I know. Okay, I'll drink. But I want to watch all of the Mark Rylance like extended footage. All of it.
I know. No, you're not. And I'll be honest with you. This movie opens with some really wonderful comedy over the screen with you see the production companies and you're just listening to them setting up an interview with Morris Flitcroft and he's asking for his cup of tea and 6 sugars and it's really sweet. And then finally cuts on. It's classic, the documentary camera angle is pointing at him and Mark's doing some ticks and stuff. You can see he's like, all right, this is this kind of character. We're going to see him.
His cough. He does a cough early on. Then I was like, yes.
Yeah, he does a little cough, and he's like moves his eyes a little bit, and I was like, okay, he's gonna go for this. Is a very affected character, and it doesn't dissolve. That's not the right. It doesn't evolve either. It just is. It's just he lives this life. It cuts away into a more real time narrative, and it just turns into this thing where all of his strange isms that we get to see some of the footage at the end of this film. They weren't shy about this. I think Mark brought a lot of that to it. I think he tried to craft somebody that would have these, because I don't think the guy that we saw in that stock footage moved and talked exactly like that. But I think everything he did complemented the fact that we needed to fall in love with Mark Rylance's Morris Flitcroft.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought was so touching about it. And it's a real good character study on there's anyone who's into the acting community and the craft itself. There's a giant debate whenever you play a real life character of whether or not you do an impression or you read as much as you can about them, but don't watch the footage, cast them off, and just try to bring yourself to it.
Austin Butler's going to have that right now with Elvis. Is like, he kind of looks like Austin Butler, but really, if you look at him, he looks like Elvis, but maybe he's too Austin Butler, but maybe he is kind of, he's going to go through that for sure for the next fucking month of our life.
So we just got a fucking, masterclass in watching somebody do it and never sacrifice. I guess what I would say is we never got to spend an entire evening at home with, Morris Flitcroft. So if what was needed to sell this story was the charm and the relationship and the smiles, the way he would just smile off the shame or the sadness or the uncomfortableness, the relationship with his wife, if all of that was totally crafted by Mark Rylance and what he needed to do to justify that was to bring that physicality. Anyone who has an issue with that, I would say fuck you, because I think it's justified all of the things that were necessary for him to actually grab hold of the tone of his character. They weren't trying to have this grounded in dark working class, 80s Europe, British realism. This wasn't a Ken Loach film, even though there were some angles and shots where it kind of felt like, I think Ken Loach shot in that fucking house at one point. Honestly, I feel like we've been in that world before, but it just had something that was really there was a levity to it, and all of it hung on Mark. You were just watching him walk around the room. There were these lovely masters these establishing shots that were very Ken Loach. I felt the camera just kind of stood in the kitchen and they just kind of shot the living room. And when he would just kind of move in around his sons and go have a seat in his chair, I was like, God damn it! I just want to stay here for the rest of the night.
Yeah,
Feels warm and cozy in there.
He's real good at business.
I mean, it's all behavior, right?
Yeah,
it's all behavior, dude. He is just. What can we say about him? Here's another one of my favorite moments, and I've been saying it in my head all day. When he's being interviewed after his first round, Morris, what do you say to playing the worst round of golf? He's like, I don't think that's fair. I don't think it was a good reflection of my game. They're like, well, why would you say that? He's like, well, I'm not one to make excuses, but I left my 4-wood in the car. It's just, he's like,
I'm deadly accurate. My 4-wood.
I think my favorite one is like
deadly accurate.
He's got a 9 and a 12 with a question mark after it for some reason.
Question mark is so funny. The question. The question mark is so funny. I also love because most people who don't watch golf don't know that you don't keep your own score at these events. The other members, you keep each other's scores. And of course you need to keep track so that you make sure now. So it's so funny when he says the other guy's score and then he just darts out of there because they know he's going to say his score.
33.
And the guy's like, 60. And so he's like, what? And he's like, 63. And he's like, so fucking funny. That's what the other guys were going to shoot for the whole 18. And he shot it in 9.
The guys and the looks on their faces too, like they really did a good job. And I don't care if this is grounded in reality and what actually happened or not. The way they directed those two first golf companions with him in the Open, these two kind of striving professionals. Neither of them became a real household name in the golf community, but they were both good golfers. And they just kind of
forever associated with that one game, though.
I mean, honestly, they kind of just let it happen, and they were just like, this guy's really going for. I mean, there's just just their perspective on it was so helpful to allow us to. We're not just rooting for him as like a really traditional underdog, and everybody hates him, but we love him. Everyone was just kind of like fascinated. There was this lovely fascination with him from the beginning. All right, so I wanted to ask you guys about this because I couldn't stop thinking about. He's not perhaps a dumb man or a mentally not a super astute man, the way some of these characters have been portrayed in movies. But every time I watch one of these movies, it makes me think of Fred Rogers and just the matter-of-factness of being a good person. And it just is. And you get all that from the opening shots as well. You can tell he's going to be a real kind human being. But that sequence when he is telling us about how he met his wife, and we've seen this scene a million times, but when he goes in and she says, I can't marry you. I've got this son out of wedlock, total shame. Nobody knows about it, even my parents. He doesn't know his father. And Mark just very calmly says, well, he does now.
Yeah.
And it's just, and you just know from there on out, like that wasn't the biggest gesture of his life. Like he was just getting started on showing her and his kids over and over and over again that he doesn't even think that hard about why you wouldn't try to support the kids, which is why the knife does get turned so well when the son, the oldest son, who he raised as his own, is kind of the person who gives us the strongest emotional obstacle by saying, eventually, you're a fool. You let the family down. Your mom live in a fucking trailer now. You let your other sons down. You told us all a fucking lie. And, it wouldn't have worked if everything up until that point hadn't have been so matter of fact. He wasn't trying to prove a point by being a good person. Do you agree with that? Did it make you think about like that Fred Rogers-y kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, because that is, you're right. There were multiple antagonists, which is not too uncommon, especially for a character study. You have the plot antagonist, which is Rhys Ifans, the Mackenzie that won't let him play in the Open. And because he pretended to be a pro, now all of a sudden he can't be in any club. Like he's trying to rat fuck his entire golfing existence. But you also have the emotional obstacle, which is the son, which is a really tough line for these kinds of movies, especially when you have lines like, are you that kind of person or are you this kind of person? And they do a good enough job of establishing that this is a time period where classism is a real thing. They don't beat the politics over the head, but this is during Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher shat all over people like Mark Rylance's characters. And I think that I think that you're right on the nose, where just the little snippets we saw, especially early on, where we see him raising the kid and we see him like playing with him and helping him build things and stuff. And so that later, when I'll call them the Hollywood lines come in, you know, the lines that like are only said in movies, but not necessarily in real life, because you have to be concise. You have to take a 30-minute conversation and chop it down into 2 lines.
Stay tuned for next week for our isms show.
I think you're right. And I think that it's going to work for a lot of people. For like movie fans, I'm kind of like, oh, those lines are only ever said in movies. But at the same time, you're 100% right, because I also wanted them to get to it quickly. So I think they pulled it off. I forget if I
Jeff, I think you said it earlier, but I've been thinking about it since you said it. This movie literally could have been an animated Pixar feature.
Yeah.
They just decided to make it in real life. But I mean, every line, the way it feels, the music felt very Giacchino and Up and Ratatouille. Like it definitely lived in that place. And that might be the biggest credential I would give it. I don't think I've ever said that about a live action narrative before. They really pulled off the charm of how do you get movie lines like that across without seeming like, I mean, fuck you, these are adults, nobody talks like that. There was so much heart.
Ratatouille takes place in 3 locations. Up is very contained. We see these movies and we think they're epic, but it's actually the wonder that happens underneath that's epic. And so when you see nowadays what's happening to Disney, it's too much, right? Like they're all great, but the reason we love those movies is because most of the magic was under the water, so to speak, since Little Mermaid created the renaissance of all this. But yes, they're all simple stories. WALL-E, despite the fact that it's about apocalypse and about futuristic, like, you know, life after this planet, it's so simple. It's a fucking robot.
Morris and WALL-E would have been amazing friends. Like there's no doubt in my mind. Just to take that all the way to the end, it never even touched on it, and I'm so glad it didn't, because, you know, the son has that classic scene where he kind of goes off on him and you know, makes him feel all ashamed, and in the Mark's character never says, you know, I'm the one who encouraged you to chase your dream. Because the boy was the one who said he wanted to be an engineer, and he just said, okay. And he just like started supporting him. There's not a ounce of, I told you so, vindictive kind of energy. He just felt guilty for maybe having let the family down. And this is when the tears began for me. When he gets invited to this golf tournament in America, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is their version of success, which is just hilarious. You know, that this is like one trip. This is the only thing that really happened to them. And this is like his
but also it fulfills
achievement.
It fulfills his promise to his wife as well. They bring that full
which
circle.
Is really lovely.
From the very beginning of the movie.
True.
Yeah.
Very charming. Because
that was super, super touching. But that whole ending sequence, I was kind of teary-eyed the whole time. But when his son finally walks in at the end and he's giving his speech, I was like, there were tears like streaming down my face. I was really crying. I don't think I've been touched like that in a while.
The ones for me were it's your turn. It's your turn. It's your turn now. When they were like, wait, you helped me raise my son. And she did it without giving away the ending, if you know what I mean.
Oh, God, yeah.
She did it because if she said, like, she could have given that speech she gives at the end then, right? When she said, like, when it was his turn for the British Open, she could have said, like, you made my life. She could have said that then. But she didn't. She just said that. So that later in the movie when she says, your dad didn't make my life miserable. He made my life. Like that way, like that was... Hollywood has been trying for decades and decades to get that flame from the 80s and 90s back when movies used to do that and pull it off. And I don't know, maybe this did.
Yeah, it did. I'll say it did.
I think Jeff, you're right, dude. And Dave, you mentioned it earlier, and it's so true. It's not just Western culture. I think it exists everywhere, but I know we get really pounded over the head with, you're too old to do this. You know, there's fucking 18-year-olds succeeding at these things, or you didn't have the training or the school or whatever the credential would be to give yourself permission to try to pursue something that's going to make you happy or a goal you have. So I really loved her speech. And again, he was sitting in his chair and she saw him like at the beginning of the film, right? And she like, Morris, come over here. I want to talk to you. And she said at that age, like, now you get to pursue your dreams. When anyone else would have said it's way too late. You know, there's no way you should start anything. We're not. She didn't say you should get a hobby. She was saying you did a good job. You sacrificed so much. Why don't you give your life a shot? And just from the beginning, you're just like, it subverts every idea you have about what is possible, which again is very unlike the Forrest Gump thing, right? Where he gets kind of wrapped up in it naturally with a realistic progression of age. This really stuck out to me as its own version of these movies, just because this was a beginning movie. This was like an origin story almost of the folk hero that he became, I guess, into his 60s and 70s when I think I even heard about this guy when I was a young man playing golf, and people made some Flitcroft jokes on the course. And
even at the conclusion of the movie, he still appeared 2 more times in the British Open after that.
Under the names
3 more times under ridiculous fucking names.
Gene Paychecki and James Bo Jolly.
Wasn't there a Count one in there as well?
There was a Count.
One was a Count, and
Gerald
the last one was
Hoppy.
Arnold Palmtree,
I
believe, which
yes.
was so shameless.
The thing I loved was like that just obscure news report right in the middle of it, where they're like, "Oh, this guy is appearing," but they kind of suspect it might be him like impersonating someone, and it wasn't. It was just some poor bastard that they thought was
because
they don't trust anyone with a weird name.
Every
now.
time there's a weird name, they're like, it could be him.
Could be him.
Count Manfred von Hofmannsthal.
God, that is so good, dude. That is so funny.
Oh man, yeah.
Oh my god.
I also hope, as a golfer myself, and this is like the hardest game you'll ever play in your entire life, I recommend giving it a shot. I hope it invites some people to the course too.
It'll piss you off. It'll be so frustrated if you've never played before.
If the movie didn't try to tackle exactly what the enigma is about why golf is so attractive, I hope you could at least say stuff like it's fun and there has to be something addicting and fun about it that even the worst player in the world would think, I've got to get back out there and practice, even if I have to go to the beach.
Go to the beach.
Yeah.
Take
go to
out
the
some
beach.
randos.
Start on a par 3 course. Don't go to a real course. It looks so big. The real courses look so big.
All right.
Oh my God. Fucking hell.
Fucking hell.
Fucking hell.
All right. I think we've glowed over this. I'm just gonna gush everyone.
Yeah, sure.
Fair enough.
Cheers. Cheers. I nearly birdied that one. Oh. And it was a cool 146 with a very refreshing, I might add, 3 minutes of end credits because there were so few VFX, in this movie. So it was just like an old school film. It was like, wow, that was great. I sat there for 3 minutes and I saw everybody who worked on this film and I'm out of here. And this whole movie and beginning to end is like an hour and 46 minutes.
I think 6 people in my theater did the same thing. Sat to the end of the credits.
That was a very lovely little piece that she wrote for the ending. It was really nice. I think I might listen to the score to this movie quite a bit. Anyway,
all right,
what have you guys been watching?
Let's do it. This is where we go to the end of our segment. We go around the horn and we say what we've been watching, give you some recommendations for the week. Dave, we always start with you. What have you been watching?
I have been catching up on all sorts of stuff. I've caught up on Stranger Things finally. I caught up on Stranger Things. Yeah, what a cliffhanger to leave that on. That's
okay. Yeah,
more coming in a month.
Yeah, I caught up to Strange New Worlds. It's still gone from like strength to strength. They had a transgender villain for the first time, I think, in Star Trek history on the latest episode, and they were amazing. I want to see more of that character because there was an obscure escape. That character will be back. I cannot wait. They nailed this role. It was amazing. And I also caught up on Halo finally. I got to the end of that.
And?
Holy shit, dude. Yeah, I can see why game purists were pissed off by the end of that. But I cannot wait to see where they take this.
Oh, cool. I stopped watching when my Paramount free trial ended.
Oh, no. Come over. You can watch the end of it. It's worth it.
Deal. We'll switch because I know you need to see shit on Apple TV, so we'll swap.
Then also last night after we ran out of stuff to watch, me and the missus sat down and put on the original BBC version of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and binged it through all 6 episodes. Yeah, it's oh my God, it still holds up. It's still so fucking funny. That series was like one of the formations of my entire sense of humor.
Dude, I've never seen it. I need to watch
it's
that
on
version.
Hulu.
I'll check it out.
Everything is on it. Yeah, dude, put it on. You'll love it.
I'm imagining you two calling each other love. Can you just like in the movie? I finished Stranger Things. I agree. That was fun. Real fun little twist.
Yep.
The whole time leading into it, I was like, God, they're showing us a whole lot of the villain. Like, it's kind of annoying. I like it more when it's a mystery, but
also,
it was cool
is
the way
Paul
they ended
Reiser
up
just
using
in
that.
everything now?
Yes, he is.
Like he was in The Boys this week as well. Playing
Yeah.
a good character that could not be more fucking different from what he's doing.
God,
in
that
Stranger
scene
Things.
was so funny.
Yeah.
I caught up on The Boys as well. He is so funny in that scene.
Yes.
God, he's funny in that scene.
Yes, he is.
Wait.
Just one scene.
That's Paul. I thought that was Never. I don't want to say. Okay, keep going.
God, that was funny.
That's Paul Reiser. That's
I
funny.
watched some of the.
Look it up. I could be wrong, but yeah.
Yeah, shout out to my brother-in-law, who's one of the TNT twins. I think he's got some more airtime coming up on The
Yeah,
Boys,
the
but
next
he's in the
episode.
old
Pretty sure you'll see a
version
lot more of him next week. A lot
Yeah.
more.
Oh, Jack. Oh, yeah. So proud of him for being on the show. I've been really enjoying it. They are shamelessly, as they always do. I fucking love that show. As they always do, the satire is very, very sharp, and they are shameless, and they're really going for it. They're just doing Donald Trump.
Pretty much.
It just
Also,
is Donald
have
Trump.
you seen Vort's Twitter account? Vort has a Twitter account.
No.
And they published an apology and a thank you for your service for like the Vort CEO this week. And then like because he's up on charges,
they're staying in line
they
with
are
it?
staying it. Like the Twitter account is going method, dude. It's hilarious.
It's really good, dude.
Also,
I really loved the quip.
When you go to Amazon and fire up these episodes, read the descriptions.
Oh yeah, the descriptions
they're
are good.
not even describing the fucking episode. Like it's
I don't think we
great.
mentioned it, but I really, really loved the shamelessness that they're having with Marvel in the opening montage of 1 or 2 when they have the movie premiere, and the logo is like the exact same structure of the Marvel logo. I mean, the exact same red and white, the same. It looks the exact same. And the director is talking about how we considered throwing this one out onto Vault Plus. But we decided it should have a theatrical release. Like they're just being shameless with it, dude. It's really fun.
A lot of references this week too. A lot of references,
a lot
like
of
movies
references.
and.
I watched a little bit of Roland Emmerich's Godzilla, which I don't know why, but I think it got put on Netflix or something. I pressed play. Anyone who remembers that Matthew Broderick version, it has its moments. I still think it's charming.
It has its moments.
And I am pretty deep into Formula One.
Is it good? I know as soon as I started, I'm gonna like it. So
you are going to be a slave to it. If I know
no
you,
idea
I
what
think
it is.
you are going to. It is going to just grab you by the throat. It's a really easy watch. They're less than an hour long, so it's like 30-ish minutes each episode, somewhere between 30 and 40. So they're really easy to just tackle. A lot of high octane. A lot of it's all that. It's very easy to watch. It doesn't try to be super sappy or emotional about their stories and stuff. It's mostly about what's happening to them, and it's really well done. And I didn't know a fucking thing about Formula One, so it's entertaining. I don't know if I've quite gone insane about it the way some people have, but I'm still watching it and I'm having fun. How about you, Jeff?
So I caught up on The Boys and Obi-Wan. Oh my God, Obi-Wan.
Oh, come on,
I caught
dude.
up on
Jeff,
that as well.
Stop. Jeff, just stop watching the Star Wars shows. You don't have to do it.
I can't help it. I don't know why. I can't help it.
Apparently, Mando is still good, and you don't need to watch anything else.
Dude, fuck off. That last episode was brilliant.
All right, you two go at it
It
and
was
fight.
fucking amazing.
You gotta be out of your goddamn mind, Dave. I don't know what the fuck you've been watching.
I have heard both of your arguments from different people. This seems to be a polarizing show. Some people are really enjoying it, and some people fucking hate it.
I just love that they fucked with everyone. They because they did the big reveal about what's actually going on in this episode, and all those people right back in the second episode where they destroyed canon, they've ruined canon, and it was a giant middle finger. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, just maybe watch the whole thing first. But like this episode
It wasn't
amazing.
clever enough.
No, they
the reveal.
they do stuff like they tried to have Obi-Wan do the whole like convince Risa she's actually good, and then she goes, no, I'm not good. Like she like comes close, and then she goes, no good, and then she takes her lightsaber and she just opens the door. Like, and it's like, if she could have done that the whole time, then what the fuck is, you know what I mean? Like they're doing shit where it's like, oh, okay, I'm so mad, I'm just gonna, even though we have two people on both sides of this giant door, like shooting it and protecting it, the truth is I have the power to just open the doors, I'm just gonna do it. And it's like, they do things that are nonsensical that the original Star Wars would have never done. And they're just doing, they just don't care if people like think that these things need to make sense. The writers don't care if things need to make sense. They can chop an arm off and not have a person cry or scream. Like they can coverage them out of existence. They can open a door when they want. They have a battle with Vader and Obi-Wan in an episode, and then they just cut away from him and we're on a different planet in the middle of a fucking Obi-Wan Vader battle. It's like they're doing things that are just like. Anyway, it's just a different show.
I'm gonna write.
What's the name?
I'm gonna write to Catherine Kennedy, and I'm gonna see if I can get you on the inside.
No, this doesn't matter. But there's really funny clips of, I think it's called Mark Hamill Hates Star Wars, and it's like interviews of him where he like can't help himself, where he just like hates Star Wars, and when he talks about the rise of Skywalker and he got the script, he kept going to them and saying, guys, I think I know Luke, and Luke wouldn't do this. He would not burn down the Jedi Temple. That's stupid. He would not do it. And they're like, well, this, that. And then he finally had to go, okay, I'm playing a different guy named Luke Skywalker. This is a different character. I have to start from scratch because this is I'm playing a different guy that just happens to have the same name as Luke Skywalker. And I feel like you could say that with all of this. Is a different show. This is a different show that happens to be called Star Wars. This Obi-Wan has absolutely nothing to do with the Alec Guinness Obi-Wan. The smile, the charm, the omnipotence, the all-knowing that Alec Guinness had, which we know now really was just Alec Guinness thinking he was in a movie that was going to suck. And so he was like smiling and he like, oh, they're like, you don't really need this from me. You don't know. All of that charm that Alec Guinness had, it's so gone. It is so non-existent. It's Obi-Wan stressed out, like fucking crazy. It's all plot. It's plot. It's
Did you feel that way? Did you feel that way about the Phantom Menace trilogy, like with Ewan's portrayal of him in those as well?
No, because he was patient.
I'm sorry if they introduced a couple of extra levels to a character that was one-dimensional.
I think that's horseshit because we're not actually exploring any
it's
of those
the archetype
levels.
Thing,
we're just shouting the levels. We're shouting them. How many characters explain their backstory? I'm so sick of somebody explaining their exposition or their backstory. Like, let us discover it.
It's the archetype thing. They're trying to do. It sounds like they're trying to do the character pieces on archetypes, which is kind of deadly. It's always dangerous.
I don't know. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it immensely.
I know. My 14-year-old students love it too. Like, whatever.
I'm one of the only people on Earth, I think, who hasn't watched any of these shows. I still haven't watched Mandalorian. Like, do you feel like this is designed to be for, like, they Jeff, would the writers in the room say, yeah, no shit, of course it's different. We're doing that on purpose.
Here's what I think.
Like, we want it to feel different.
And I said this to you last time. If Mandalorian,
go back to 1976 if you want to watch.
If Mandalorian fucked everything up, because if Mandalorian didn't exist, Boba Fett would have been the Mandalorian show. But because Mandalorian existed, they did what they did with Boba Fett, where they made him a Buddhist who was 90 years old. And in this show, they said out loud. So this isn't inside baseball. They said out loud that they were worried that the Obi-Wan movie they wanted to make was old man takes care of young kid who didn't understand his powers. But that's what the Mandalorian plot was. The Mandalorian's plot, yeah, they have the episode of the week, but the actual, like, what Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, their plot is a slow burn the entire season or 2 seasons. In this, it's blah, 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 blah. This is the plot. Now we're doing this. Now we're going to go there. We're going to do that, blah, 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 blah. And the character is just completely sacrificed. So what they did, instead of not doing that and doing a different show, they did a bait and switch. So they said, we don't want to do the old man taking care of the child. And they did that. It's just not Luke. It's Leia. And in doing that, they turned Leia into something, which is, I see what they're going for. But when Leia's like, lower the ladders and let me get up there, I'm like, they're making this for children. Like the whole the Obi-Wan I thought was going to be like for my dad and I to watch together, but now they're watching it is for the children. And Dave saw Jedi.
I've heard that from other people.
But
too.
when Leia goes lower the, so they actually say like none of us can fit in those teeny tiny rafters, and Leia's like lower the ladder and let me get in there. Cue 90s sitcom music. Like it's just not Star Wars anymore. You know what I mean?
All right, well, you know what it makes me think of, and we're talking about this, but I think people give a shit about this. I think people like this. My brother was one of those people who had not seen Star Wars for like most of his life until he was at some point in his mid-20s, and he was watching it for the first time, and he had been watching a lot of movies recently. He'd been like catching up on all the pop culture that he had avoided, and I was like, "What'd you think?" And he was like, "You know, it was like a campy kids movie. Like I was expecting more from just the lore that is built up around it." So you know what, man? Maybe if we hadn't grown up cherishing those original stories so much, maybe we could all sit back and say, you know, he was basing this on the not Will Rogers. What's the
Will Rogers Follies?
What's the help me out. What's the story he was basing it on? The
Akira Kurosawa.
Yeah.
No, god damn it, come on. The space story that he was
Space
basing it on,
Jam.
the serial. Come on, you guys. You know what I'm talking about.
Spaceballs.
God damn it. You really don't know what I'm talking about? What the fuck was it? Something Rogers, and it was like a
Buck
sci-fi,
Rogers?
like space drama.
Sure,
Buck
Buck
Rogers. God
Rogers?
damn it. Thank you. Jesus Christ. I mean, that was just as much of his influence as Throne of Blood was. Like the story came from that, but the tone was like, I want to make this serial space saga where we kind of venture with them to these different places in a galaxy and get to have adventures. Like that was absolutely what he was trying to do.
A robot
So maybe-
that all it says is beady 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 beady. Yeah.
The adventures to me aren't coming from Obi-Wan.
That's for the old people.
They're coming from Reza. He's running away from things. I wish that Obi-Wan had agency in his own series, and I don't think he does.
Do you think they made this for fucking kids because it's on a streaming app that kids have access to? It's not a rated PG-13 movie. You know what I mean?
I mean,
Dave, what do you
I
think?
feel like they made it generic enough to like you can sit down with your family and watch it. They're very careful to tread that line so that like parents can show their kids this because that is what you do with Star Wars. You hand it off to your kids, and I feel like maybe we should wait until the last episode before we judge the series as a whole because they are telling a
Nope.
story, and
Nope.
everybody jumped on the second episode and was like, "This is shit," and here's the reason why. And
Guys,
it turned out to
they
be
had a
completely
girl run
invalid.
through. They had a girl run through
Completely
villains' legs
invalid.
while they bumped heads into each other. Like it was made on MTV in the 80s or 90s. Like literally, like a 9-year-old Leia ran through this is what they do for a living. Grown soldiers' legs, and they were like, oh, they like bumped into each other and
This
fell
is
down.
what they do for
it was
a
like,
living.
It was. I mean, it was so bumbly and like, oh my god. Anyway, I really did not intend to shit on Obi-Wan right now. I watched that.
I know, but I couldn't help.
I'm gonna guess you're not watching the final episode because you.
No, I'm
haven't
going
earned
to
it.
keep watching. I
You
can't
haven't
help
earned
it. I'm not going to say anything about it on this podcast. I'm not going to say a goddamn word about it.
I can't wait to ask you next week.
I'm not going to say anything. The Boys is great. I love The Boys, and I rewatched The Mummy with my family.
Ooh. As in the first one.
Yeah, the Mummy.
Yeah.
Hell yeah,
Not the Tom
dude.
Cruise one.
No. Tom Cruise hasn't.
One of my-
Tom Cruise doesn't have many misses, and that's a big whopping miss.
That's a big miss.
God, the mummies are so good, dude. They're so much fun. So glad you watched that one. Brendan Fraser,
so
one of my
hot.
sound professors, worked on that movie, and I'm so jealous. He said they had a great time.
It's so Hollywood, but man, it's fun.
Of course, yeah.
It
It's
really
like
was, yeah.
shamelessly like fake Hollywood.
That's
It's
part
almost
of-
like Hollywood.
That's part of the
Hollywood.
gag, though. Like
That's
the,
why it's so much
That's
fun.
why it's good.
The minute you cast Brendan Fraser in that role, he had a thing, folks. He's going to be difficult for us to describe to the next generation, right? It's going to be tricky to
After
explain.
Encino Man, how could
what
you
he
cast
did.
anybody else?
It's like, yeah, he was in The Mummy and he's Robot Man.
George of the Jungle. Come on, Dave. Encino Man, George of the Jungle, Dudley Do Right. What else? We could fuck in there.
we
But
could
I'm also
fucking,
talking about like like the opposite bookends of his character, like he's
Oh,
the
the bookends,
family-friendly adventurer, and then Robot Man in Doom Patrol, where
Robot
he
Man.
literally has a scene where all he does is storm from one side of the frame to the other, yelling "fuck" like 14 times.
Jeff, where is the Mummy streaming? I could
HBO
watch
Max.
Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser go to Egypt and wake up Emotep.
Tap, Anaxima Moon. It's on HBO Max.
Thank you.
Nice.
Anytime.
Yeah. All right, folks, that was fun. Go watch that lovely little golf movie. Please support it. It has only made worldwide about 2.7 in the US and Canada. It has still not scratched 170,000. So
limited release.
Everybody go see it. Everybody go see it. Everybody go see it.
Let's do it.
We'll see you next week, bitches.
Jesus.